the first hour and a half to roughly 2 hours, it is a great adventure picture. Traveling out into the desert and meeting new people and getting into battles and taking a city. That's all really cool, fun stuff.
The English have a great hunger for desolate places. I think you are another of these desert-loving English.
You're the most extraordinary man I ever met.
You are using up your 9 lives very quickly.
So, Tig, I put something on you that I don't take lightly because time is precious. And so when you ask of somebody, hey, here's close to 4 hours of your life, you know, that's not something that I take very lightly. Of course, your assignment for this week was David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia, considered one of the great epics of all time, and it is a very long movie. And this is the only thing we talked about off camera. You said it didn't feel like 4 hours. Unless I misinterpret, I think that speaks volumes.
Yes. I think out of all the classic movies you've given me to watch, this one I knew the absolute least about.
Lawrence of Arabia tells the story of T.E. Lawrence, who is a British officer during World War I. He is sent out into the deserts of Arabia to help out in their fight against the Turks. It follows him through this series of battles as he's sort of leading these Bedouin tribes in fights and ultimately sort of explores the ups and downs of Lawrence's adventures in the desert.
About 3/4 of the way through the movie, I started to question if he was a real person. So, of course, I Googled it while I was watching it and realized, oh, okay, this is based on an actual guy.
Yes, yeah, the film is based on the 7 Pillars of Wisdom written by T.E. Lawrence. T.E. Lawrence being the person who's being betrayed in the movie by Peter O'Toole. Historians have some pretty deep misgivings as far as the accuracy of the Lawrence that we see on screen as compared to the real-life Lawrence, but the basic bones of it are there. Very interesting in the sort of the study of his character that you see over the course of the movie is that there aren't really any clear answers. He's just this mess of contradictions.
You can rum-tee-tum-tee-tum-tee-tum.
One of the things that drove me nuts is in the beginning of the movie, you like him. But then by the end of the movie, I'm like, he's kind of a tool.
I'm going, Ali.
Why?
Why? I've come to the end of myself, I suppose.
Like, he's the kind of guy that would drive you crazy if you were friends with him. He's not really a likable character.
Sleep. Eat.
Yeah, not a likable character, a very compelling and watchable character.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but definitely not likable. I agree. The first half of the film, which is just really extraordinary, it's a sort of journey into the desert to go meet Prince Faisal and then the taking of Aqaba. And he's really built himself up, and the people around him have built himself up to be this great hero who is going to lead give the Arabian people their freedom. But you realize in the second half that he got caught up in his own hype, kind of losing his own sense of identity.
You can only kill me with a golden bullet.
He had this belief that he could accomplish things and he could help others accomplish great things. But it was also sort of a belief based on foolhardy ignorance. There's that wonderful sequence when they're crossing.
When they have to, it's like 20 days through the desert or something crazy.
Yeah, like trying to get to Aqaba the back way. And one of the guys gets left behind. And everyone's like, there's nothing we can do. Like, he's dead. This desert just devours people. We need to keep moving.
In God's name, understand. We cannot go back.
And Lawrence, being sort of ignorant of really what's going on, he's like, nah, I can do this. I'm going to get the guy. And he does. He successfully does it. One of my favorite scenes in the movie. I absolutely love it. But it was kind of luck in a way. I mean, it was perseverance, but it was also luck. Yeah. So he gets back and he's like, ta-da, I did it. And it just all went to his head.
Lawrence. I also enjoyed the turn of Sherif Ali. Because
yes.
I like that in the beginning, you're sort of really hate the guy. Because you're like, who's this jerk?
I am Ali ibn al-Kharish.
But then towards the end, you're like, he's the rational guy throughout all of this.
He becomes the moral compass of the movie. He's the one, when they reach Damascus, who believes that they can sort of find a consensus and create their own government. And he's both an idealist and a realist.
I should stay here and learn politics.
That's a very low occupation.
I had no thought of it when I met you.
I immediately tried to add up the years of how old John Williams was when I heard the soundtrack. It's fair to say that John Williams is heavily influenced by...
I think that might be relatively fair to say, yeah.
I mean, holy crap.
Certainly he borrowed aspects of it, as I'm sure many did, because the score is phenomenal. And I find myself, even though it's a pretty lengthy intermission, I leave it on. I tend to let it play through because I just love the music. I love the atmosphere that it sets.
I obviously can't go on enough about the music and some of the shots, like especially getting to see it in high def.
It's been said about this movie that the desert is itself a character. I would probably argue that never has just scenery been more beautifully shot in a motion picture than in Lawrence of Arabia. The two big famous ones are the cut when he blows out the match, and then it cuts to the scorching sun of the desert, which is always it's a nice edit. I like that. One of the other very famous ones, the introduction of Sherif Ali. It's just this long shot that you're looking way out into the desert, and he just appears as this little itty bitty speck.
Bedouin.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're looking at. So you're doing the same thing they're doing. It's like they're forcing you to be like, what is it that I'm looking at? Like, is it a bunch of people? Is it a person? What the hell is it?
Yeah, and David Lean has the cajones to just let it play out like that. Right, Lawrence is coming in with the guy he just rescued, and one of the boys gets on the camel to come out and meet him because he sees him approaching the camp. And Lean's got this terrific shot that's pulled way back, and you've got like Lawrence coming in on one side and the boy coming in on the other. The kid actually goes past and loops around. And I just love the shot. I love the way it's staged. The shot looking at Aqaba when they actually charge and take the city.
Yeah, that was a really awesome shot when they're just riding through the city to the ocean, to the sea. So one of the things I read just that I thought was interesting was I kept noticing when they were all riding the camels that they all were riding the camels a specific way with their leg. So I looked it up and I realized that when they were filming that movie, Peter O'Toole, obviously from sitting on a camel for so long, his ass was killing him. Yeah. So he went to like some place and found a piece of foam to sit on, and everybody else started doing the same thing he did. And the nomads that live out there,
the Bedouin,
they still use that piece of foam and still do the same thing.
Or is it that you think we are something you can play with? Because we are a little people.
I loved Alec Guinness as that character, but he's just Obi-Wan.
He can go about his business. I long for the vanished gardens of Cordoba.
For people watching this today who haven't maybe seen it before, there are a couple of instances that basically blackface, where Alec Guinness, who modern audiences would best know him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, older audiences might better know him from like a Bridge on the River Kwai, but he plays an Arabian prince, Prince Faisal. There's also Anthony Quinn, who is a well-known actor from back in the day. He was in a lot of war movies, like The Guns of Navarone and some others, and he also plays an Arab.
They are stealing our water. Tell them we are coming.
But they did get Omar Sharif, Omar Sharif was an established Egyptian actor before this picture. This was his first Western picture, and he of course played Sherif Ali. Turned his career around. It exploded his career. He ended up doing Dr. Zhivago for David Lean.
He's great in the movie.
He's fantastic. He's my favorite character in the movie, and his performance, Omar Sharif's performance, is just great.
Wadi Safra is another day from here. You will not find it, and not finding it, you will die. There is no rest now short of water, Orans. The other side of that.
Lawrence of Arabia definitely has the feel of a very golden age of color cinema in Hollywood. It showcases everything that was great about that period without any of the cheesiness.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was shockingly violent.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits, especially the massacre of the retreating Turkish troops. You really get the sense that, like, yeah, he's lost his mind, and it's a little shocking, and especially the journey that you've taken with the character up until that point. You're disappointed in him. You're like, come on, what are you doing?
So when he goes back to his commanding officers,
Yes.
proclaims that
I had to execute him with my pistol.
I see. Well, that's all right. Let it be a warning.
No, something else.
What then?
I enjoyed it.
it's crazy because it cuts and you sort of are just left. You're like, well, like, is he lying? Because that's weird. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would enjoy it. Like, maybe he enjoyed it. I don't know. And you have no idea where it's going to go. And then it comes back from the intermission. And he's just like slick. He's like covered in blood and he's looking forward to slaughtering people. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, because in the beginning you get this sense that he's just this very bookish, intellectual who doesn't really belong on a battlefield. He makes a crack about, it's my manners, sir. Peter O'Toole also plays Lawrence as very effeminate. There's sort of suggestions that he might be gay. Whether or not that's historically accurate is kind of unclear. So in the beginning, they're trying to paint this picture of like the guy who's not the alpha macho guy who's going to go out and be taking down soldiers and all that. Later on, when he's just delighting in it, it's both disappointing and kind of a little shocking. He got this taste of power over other people.
And the turn came at a weird place. Somebody shoots one of the other tribemen over something stupid. And he says, well, I'll kill whoever it was. That will settle it for both sides. And then he finds out it's the guy he rescued in the desert.
Yes. Oh, what a turn that is, too.
Yeah,
what a turn.
Heartbreaking. But he shoots him and then he unloads the gun on him.
Was he engaging in that later brutality because he fully liked it, or was he trying to embrace the role that he thought he was supposed to have? Because there's the bit of his two young servants. The one, of course, goes down in quicksand. Finally, quicksand.
Yeah, which I wanted to point out. Growing up in the 80s, there were so many ways he could have been saved, and I was disappointed. None of them were used.
Yeah, they were in the desert, though. There's no tree branches. The second boy accidentally blows his guts open with a detonator when they're trying to take down a train. And at that point, they had already made clear they don't leave behind wounded.
He's a complicated man.
Yeah, and one thing that I appreciate about the film is that it does not give you answers. There are no easy answers, and I think it makes that very clear. It's like, look, people are complicated, so we can't say that he was definitively A or B or C, because he was all of these things simultaneously. One of the reasons why this picture is still so magical to me, we can see anything on the big screen these days. Anything. They can put up armies that are millions strong on the screen, but it just doesn't resonate as much as it does seeing a bunch of real guys out in the real vast epic desert, thundering around on camels and on horses and seeing these wide expansive shots. So yeah, it's good stuff. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I wasn't entirely sure, but I figured there was something there.
I was glad you were brave enough to toss it at me.
Yeah, I was a little worried, because of the long run time and all the rest. But I love this film. I love it. What can we possibly follow up Lawrence of Arabia with?
An 80s movie with Harrison Ford, but he's not the hero. It is the 1980s drama with River Phoenix and Harrison Ford called Mosquito Coast.
Some said he was a genius.
But Dad, what is it?
It's perfection. That's what it is.
Some thought it was madness.
Nobody ever thinks of leaving this country. I do.
I think about it every day. Tell him he is a dangerous man, and one of these days he's going to get you all killed.
What is it you want?
Elbow room.
Come on.
And when the world wouldn't listen,
Goodbye, America! Have a nice day!
he found a world that would.
All right, hey, I'm always down for some Harrison Ford, so let's check it out. Folks who are out there, research. Definitely give us some Lawrence of Arabia talk if you have seen it before. Tell us why you love the movie, and if you don't, I guess you can tell us why that too, though I may end up getting into an argument with you in the comments about that. If you haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, definitely do so. I've been Eric.
And I'm Tig. Thanks for hanging out in the movie club.